So today I wanted to talk about the really boring side of website design, the legal side, and making sure that when we are creating websites and taking our businesses online, we are actually being compliant with data privacy laws and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a bit dull, but if you want to make sure you're running your business legally, you need to have one. But luckily I've got a solution that makes it really, really easy to create a tailored privacy and cookie policy, which means that you're actually compliant, and it's super easy to add to your website as well. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Anna. I am a designer and online educator at byrozanna.co.uk, and here on YouTube I share videos about business, marketing, productivity, tutorials, all that kind of stuff. So if you like that type of content, please remember to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up while you're there. Now, before we get started, I do want to say a disclaimer quickly that I am not a lawyer. If you want actual professional advice about legally setting up your website and making sure that you're compliant on everything, definitely speak to an actual solicitor or lawyer who is a specialist in this kind of stuff. I just want to share with you my knowledge and tips from the perspective of a website designer, as these are the kind of recommendations that I have to suggest or advise my clients on as well. So first of all, what is a privacy or a cookie policy? It's basically a long page or a document that you will have on your website which explains to people how you're using their data. Because when we have websites, we'll be doing things like tracking analytics to work out how much traffic you've got on your website, doing things like that. Or we might even be doing more complicated stuff like selling things through e-commerce, collecting email addresses, running advertising campaigns that track where people have been on your website. All of those things require you as a business or the software that you're using to store data about a user. It might just be that they have landed on a page on your website, or it might be more detailed information like their email address, their phone number, their address if they're buying through your online store. So it can be really complex, and thanks to data privacy laws, at least here in the UK and in the US and in the EU, and they are all a bit different. So again, that's why I would suggest talking to a lawyer if you are worried about something specific from where you are. But because of these laws, we have to be really careful in letting our users know exactly how their data is being used and stored and all that other stuff. But I'll talk about that quickly in a second. Now, you might not think, if you are just a very small business, maybe you've just got started, maybe you're just a freelancer and you've got a very simple basic website, maybe you're not collecting email addresses, maybe you're not actually selling any products online, you might think that you don't have to have a privacy policy or a cookies policy and it's not relevant to you. But unfortunately, you're probably wrong, because most website platforms or builders that you might have built your website on do actually store certain bits of data about the users of your website. You might not be aware of that, but generally if your website platform has something like the ability for you to see analytics about your website, so Squarespace, for example, has a built-in analytics tool where you can see how many visitors you've had, you can see what pages they've been on, things like that. If your website builder has anything like that, you need a privacy policy. If you have a contact form on your website, even just a simple one that just sends the inquiry to your email address, for example, you still need a privacy policy because you are capturing data from someone on your website and you're storing it in a certain way. And even if you don't have a contact form, but maybe you are a service provider and you have clients email you and you have a kind of project management system where you store information about your clients, or when they're working with you, you need a privacy policy, because even though it's not done on your website, you still are storing people's data in a certain way. You need to make them aware of that when you are being in contact with them. So to be on the safe side, I usually just like to assume that anyone who has a website needs a privacy policy and a cookies policy. Now, there are certain things that have to be in this in order to be compliant. It's not just enough to kind of write out your own policy with saying that you use this tool and this tool. It's not quite as simple as that. There are certain checkboxes that you do have to fill out. And again, I'd encourage you to do your own research if you are planning to write your own or come up with your own. But you need to include things like what data you collect and for what purposes, how you're going to store that data and process that data. You You also need to make it really clear about the user's rights to withdraw their consent to you using their data, and they should also know that they can request all the data that you hold on them by contacting you. And so another little legal thing that you may not know is that in your privacy policy and your cookie policy, which should be clear on your website, you do actually need to include your contact details. So not just your email address, but also your business name and your registered address as well. And that's something that a lot of sole traders and freelancers don't realize, but that on your privacy policy, which should be on your website, you do really need to be putting your registered business address to be legally compliant. Sorry. However, if this all sounds too complicated, luckily there is a tool that I can recommend which makes this super easy. It's called Ubender. It's around $29 per year, and that does depend on how much website traffic you have. But if you're under 25,000 views per month, then this solution is literally $29 a year, which is like barely anything per month, and definitely worth it to make sure that you're compliant. And I just want to show you how really quick and easy it is to get set up with it. Okay, so I'm just on my website here where I have installed my privacy and cookies policies from Ubender. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like really. This is all just embedded onto my website. I haven't written any of this. I've just clicked buttons when I was setting it up, and they basically did the rest, which is amazing. And I just had to install it on my website. So I just want to show you quickly the Ubender setup process. So you go onto the website, and I will leave the link in the description. I'm not sponsored to make this video, but I do have an affiliate link, which means that if you sign up through my link, I do get a bit of a kickback. But as I say, I use this myself and I recommend it for all my clients because it is just so easy. So you can choose from the different plans. I would probably suggest you would just need the personal plan, and then it can go up in price depending on how many page views a month you have. But just click to get started with that. And then once you're signing up, what it will do is ask you for your website link. So I'm just going to copy a link to this website and click start generating so that I can show you. So now it's asking, do I want to generate a privacy and cookie policy? Do I want to generate the cookie solution? So what I mean by a cookie solution is that little cookies pop up that you get on some websites. And again, you need to have this on your website in order to be compliant, so that users of your website can actually choose whether, yes, they're happy for you to be using cookies on your website, or no, they're not, and they can click reject here. Now, this is an example of a fully compliant cookie policy because it is set up with Ubender. The accept and reject buttons are exactly the same so that people aren't, almost forced to click the accept button. They can also click to learn more and customize their cookie settings, which you can't often do with kind of the built-in cookies pop-ups that you get in like Squarespace or Wix and stuff like that. They're actually technically not fully compliant. So that's why I would again recommend getting this Ubender tool, because it does this all for you and make sure it's compliant. So if you want this pop-up solution as well, you just need to click generate on that, and it will give you some code to embed onto your website. But it's very easy to do, and they do actually give you instructions on how to do that as well. So if I click generate now on the privacy and cookie policy, what it will now do is there's some instruction guides here as well that you can follow through to set this up properly. But what you now need to do is add your services. So you need to basically add all the different tools and software that you use with your website and in your business that store people's data. So for example, I'm going to add service and search for Squarespace. You can also have it scan your website so that it can auto detect services. It takes a minute to do that, so I'm not going to show you there. But you can basically search for your website platform, click for that, and choose what personal data you actually collect from people. So for example, if you just had a contact form, you might just fill in like the first name and email address and any information you collect from your contact form. But if you, for example, were selling products on your website as well, you would want to also include all of the other data that you collect with that e-commerce system. So for example, their purchase history, maybe you collect their phone number as well. So you just need to select all of the personal information that you collect. I'm just going to select that. Also, for example, if you use a project management system, you can search for it in here, like Trello, for example. I'm going to select that and then include again all the data that I have on people that I store within Trello. And it does take a few minutes to set up, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So just include everything that you might possibly use. So maybe you use Google Drive as well, or Google Analytics. You can select all of those. You can also search through all of these categories here on the left-hand side, just to see if you've missed any, and scroll through and see if there are any tools or software that you're using on there as well. Then you can just click Save and Close. And then when you go to Next, it will give you the code. You need to fill in all of your company details, but it will basically give you a snippet of code that you can then embed on your website. And you can do this really easily no matter what website builder you're using, and they give you instructions on how to do it. So as I say, if you are worried about making sure that your website is compliant, this is literally the easiest tool to make sure that your website is actually legal. And I will leave the link to it below if you want to find out more information and get signed up. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back again next week with another video.